This is Dumbed Down Life number 128.
I hear bodies.
Good evening, Darren.
Good evening, Lance. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, not too bad. How are you?
I'm a little bit disappointed. I had planned on doing a recording in the break between while you were away and while I went away, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, I had the same plan. I thought I'd do a music show or something while you were in Turkey, and I didn't.
Yeah, no. Turkey was brilliant. Ever so hot, but I'm not one to complain about when it gets too hot. So, yeah, really good fun.
Good.
And what have you been up to?
Not a lot, really. I went on holiday myself, and it wasn't quite so hot near Skegness as Turkey by the sound of it.
40 degrees there in Skegness.
14, probably,
14.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's about it, really. So, yes, nothing to report here. Business as usual.
Well, one of the things that happened just before going on holiday was that I received, drum roll please. Do you not have a drum? Yeah, that would do. I finally received, after almost a year overdue, my Kreyos Meteor watch.
Fantastic. And how good is your watch?
Well, straight out of the box, it was already charged, which was good. Nice, like that.
Always nice.
Wouldn't pair with the phone, which, for a smartwatch, you kind of need some kind of way of communicating with other devices. It would not communicate with the phone. So the first problem being, you have to communicate it with the phone so that it can register to even be usable.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was it. Straight out of the box, couldn't use it.
I had the same issue with my Sony watch.
Now that's interesting. But that was with use with the iPhone?
No, with the HTC.
Oh, okay. Right. We'll get to that a little bit later.
Okay.
So I found an application. Well, what I found was that I could go into the control panel, pair the watch, and it would say paired, disconnected. As quick as that.
Yep, I had that with my Sony watch as well.
So what I did was I found a little application that says if this then that. It's not actually if this then that, but that sort of describes what it does.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the options is if it sees a device pair, great. If it sees that device unpair, repair it.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's sort of nice, but it sort of isn't, because it's another application that's running and it's constantly doing something.
It's a convenient fix for a fault that shouldn't exist.
Exactly. But what happened was that allowed the phone to be connected to the watch for long enough that the Kreyos app would then pick the watch up, and once the app was talking to the watch, then it held the link open.
Right.
For long enough to upgrade the firmware on the watch, register the watch, and allow the watch to be used as a watch device.
Yeah.
However, none of the notifications did anything. And the voice activation didn't work. So talking to the Google Now thing didn't work. Any incoming messages, you couldn't answer the phone on the watch as it's designed for. Basically, it was just an interesting looking watch.
Now, it's interesting you say all of that, because they're very, very similar issues to those that I had with the Sony.
We will get back to that. So, because you'd lent me your Sony a couple of weeks before I got hold of this Kreyos.
Yeah.
And it paired with my phone straight away, and it hasn't been giving the double notifications that you've got.
Really?
Nope, that was fine.
Does it stay paired?
I'll get back to that. But yeah, on the merit of how much I liked your watch, I thought this was going to be good for when I got the Kreyos.
Mm-hmm.
So I resigned myself to, okay, well, perhaps they need to just release an updated app or an updated firmware for the phone, for the watch, and at least mechanically, the watch is now, you can wear it as a watch, and it works. I left it on charge for the rest of the day. Left for work. This was on the Thursday. By the time I got home, the battery was flat.
Oh, really?
Given this had 3 hours of charging, it should have been able to last a 45-minute journey home.
Yes.
Didn't worry about it too much. Left it on charge overnight. In the morning, it wasn't paired to the phone anymore. It's like, oh, this is going to be fun. So went through the same procedures I had before, paired it with the phone, paired it with the app, got it all connected. It looked as if it was connected, but still none of the systems worked. So I went into the settings on the phone, turned off the Bluetooth, because I thought, well, if it's not going to be using the Bluetooth, I'll save the battery. Hopefully it'll last for the weekend at least on a charge, and it'll be good. By the end of Friday, the battery was flat.
Oh, dear.
Even with the Bluetooth turned off.
So essentially that is just acting as a watch.
Just
and
acting
it won't
as a
last
watch.
a day.
Doesn't last a day.
Oh, boy.
But I thought, well, I still like it as a watch, so charged it up at the end of the day. On Saturday morning, woke up and it had not paired. So every morning you've got this, having to go through this reinitializing the watch as if it's brand new every morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not fun, but, it works. And for testing purposes, I carried on wearing it. Took it out with me to Turkey, and one of the things that this watch is sold as, it's sold as a sports watch, and it's waterproof to 5 meters. And so I thought, okay, well, this holiday we're going on, we're going to be in the pool, we're going to be in the sea, we're going to be on the water slides. I'll take it in the pool. I didn't realise that when they said that it was waterproof to 5 meters, they actually meant swimming a distance of 5 meters. Because no sooner had I sort of swum the length of the pool that I looked at my watch and it had said battery flat, and you could see the water damage inside the watch.
Oh.
Now, this was having unplugged the charger, walked down to the pool and swum the length of the pool. The battery was flat because the water had got in and shorted the battery out and fried the watch.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, not particularly happy with that.
So
Hang on. What are you laughing at? What are you laughing at? You're not laughing. Okay. I have an audience today.
Ah, right, okay.
So, yeah, the Kreyos watch is cremated.
Oh, so there's no chance of, I mean, I'm guessing with the issues you've had actually getting the thing in the first place, and the fact that it obviously doesn't work as promised, then I'm guessing your hopes of a replacement are fairly low.
Exactly. Well, the thing is that I've since joined all sorts of forums to find out whether I'm unlucky or whether all of the watches are like this. And it turns out that I was lucky to have got one that worked at all.
Oh, right. So,
and with this being one of these Kickstarter things, they relied on the money of people pre-ordering the watch to be able to build their factory, to be able to do the programming, and so they've made little profit out the whole thing. So the whole idea of being able to give refunds, very unlikely. And if they were to do replacements, it sounds as if they'd have to replace every single watch they've sold with a version 2, which they won't have the money to do.
Which they haven't got the funding to do, yeah. So you're essentially quite literally dead in the water.
Exactly, because if they, it's going to cost me to send this, whether I send it back to Singapore or whether I send it to America, it's going to cost me money to send it, which again they won't have the funds to be able to replenish me with, so it's just not worth doing.
Oh dear. So has this put you off smartwatches as a thing, or has it made you want? I don't want to use the word more reputable version, but from somebody who's a bit more established, shall we say?
Well, how about we leave that until after the music?
We're all fighting a battle. We're singing the same song, trying to find someone who cares as much as we do. We're all climbing the ladder while we're sinking in this boat, trying to find someone who cares. Oh, I'm letting go, 'cause she'll never know how I feel. No, this is real at all. She'll never see, so I leave her bed to find someone who cares as much as I do. Oh, no, 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 no. I'm letting go. We're all breaking the silence. We'll step up to the plate, trying to be someone who blends in with the crowd. Oh, we're all taking the tough road, for Lord only knows. Now the question why we hesitate to say goodbye. Oh, I'm letting go, 'cause she'll never know how I feel. This is real at all. She'll never see, so I'll leave her bed to find someone who cares as much as I do. No, 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 no. I'm letting go. I'm letting go. She'll never know. I'm letting go, 'cause she'll never know how I feel. And she'll never see, so I'll leave her bed to find someone right. Oh, I'm letting go, 'cause she'll never know how I feel tonight. And she'll never see, so I'll leave her bed to find someone who cares as much as I do.
And that was Sam Brown with Who Cares?
Before we go any further, the way we're recording this now, I haven't actually heard that song. Is that the Sam Brown?
As in, stop. No,
Yes.
it's not. No, it's a guy called Sam Brown.
Ah, okay. Well, I look forward to listening to that when I hear the show. So you asked me before the tantalizing break whether this has put me off of the idea of smartwatches. No.
Good.
It's certainly put me off the idea of Kickstarters. I've never been a big fan of going for version 1 of anything. It took me a while before getting onto Android. I don't like going for sort of... I didn't try Windows 8. I've gone straight for Windows 8.1, that sort of thing.
I mean, the culture that we sort of live in now, version 1 of something is pretty much the beta, isn't it?
Near enough, especially if it's not one of these companies with a big name.
I mean, I guess they can only test things so far in-house. Then they release the thing into the wild and people do stuff that they didn't expect people to try and do, or they combine... I mean, we've talked before on how your Torch app was affecting your Panorama app. Now, there's no way that Google and the Android team can test every single app against every other single. So you kind of have to release these things into the wild and find out what screws them over.
Yeah. Now, with the Kreyos watch, from what I've read in the forums, it seems that most people who have had any level of success with the watch have got iPhones. So it sounds to me as if the developers developed it as an iPhone product and ported it across to Android.
Badly.
It doesn't help, and this is where we go back to your original conversation. It doesn't help that Android has a renowned flaky implementation of Bluetooth.
Right, yeah.
Now, I'd be interested to hear what happened when you tried to use your Sony watch, because for me, that plugged in and worked.
Right.
However, just today, the watch has been... the phone has been low on battery, and I've noticed that as the phone has got low on battery, the connectivity with the watch has been appalling.
Right. That answers a few questions with
Yeah.
me. But the reason why I lent you the watch, okay, I really like it, and when it works, it's great. But my initial story, very similar to yours actually, out of the box, had quite a lot of charge in it. So I paired it with the phone. And it does a sort of an initialization, and you mentioned that yours was sort of updating its firmware and what have you. It tried to do the same thing with my phone and the Sony watch, and I had this sort of the progress loading bar almost going across the screen, and it would not finish. It sort of got 20% of the way across the screen, and that's it. It just stopped. I tried cancelling it, rebooting it, factory reset sort of thing, and it was having none of it. Then I just thought, Christ, what am I going to do? Because it is just a dead piece of plastic and metal without it being initialized with a device. It won't even come up as a watch, same as your Kreyos.
Yep.
So I hit upon the idea, I've got a Samsung tablet as well, and I paired it with that. Paired absolutely perfectly, shot along the progress bar, installed, initialized, fantastic. So I then cut the connection to the tablet, removed it as a device, repaired it with the phone, and everything works. Brilliant. Not sure why it wouldn't do it with the phone, but I have a suspicion now based on what you've just said. But yeah, I've had massive amounts of trouble with it not keeping its connection. I get multiple notifications, which I suspect is because of these drop connections. I'm guessing I get the notification through on the watch. It drops its connection before it sent a signal back to the phone to say, thank you very much, I've had that. So then when it reconnects, it gets them all resent again. Would that make sense?
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it's what it's doing.
Yeah. Now, you having said that your phone's low on battery and your connection has been appalling. Now, the phone that I've got, the battery life on it is absolutely shocking. We are talking probably 6 or 7 hours. If I use it unplugged, it won't last 8 hours. So I suspect I've got. I mean, it's a fairly old phone. It's your old phone, so you know the phone I'm talking about. Yeah. I suspect the battery has sort of had its day.
Yeah.
And it's not holding a particularly long charge, and it's possibly even giving out lower power than it should be. Yeah. And that's causing my problems with the watch.
But Bluetooth in itself doesn't seem to be that... Well, again, this may well be the Android implementation of Bluetooth doesn't seem to be that fantastic. I have had problems in the car today with having the audio paired to the radio and the watch paired as well. Because any time a notification come through, rather than it simply ignoring the notification or going blank with the notification, it stops the music. Stops it outright. It doesn't pause it and then restart it. It just stops the music. So and that I've had the phone paired to the radio before without it being paired to the watch, and it doesn't do that.
Now, thinking about this, I've had my phone plugged into the charger in the car, with the watch on my arm and a Bluetooth hands-free earpiece in my ear, obviously, and everything has stayed connected.
Yeah, but your
So-
Bluetooth earpiece isn't necessarily doing anything, is it?
No, but it's still maintaining a connection, isn't it?
Yeah,
But
the-
is
the
that
connection-
because, is it working okay because I've got the phone plugged into a charger?
There's that possibility, but also the earphone, the headset may simply be getting the "I'm here."
I'm here signal, yeah.
I'm here every 30 seconds or a minute, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not a constant stream like you do when you've got the music going.
No.
So it's a bit of a struggle, a bit of a gamble as to
Yeah.
what all these things are doing.
I'm just thinking from a personal point of view that the watch stayed connected.
Yeah,
So maybe it's just the fact that the phone hasn't got enough power
to do all the different things.
to keep a constant Bluetooth stream going to the watch.
Well, certainly until you come back to claim your watch, I'll be doing more experiments with this to find out sort of what's causing the problems and getting it working better.
So you can iron it all out for me, get it all fixed, and I can take it back and it works perfectly.
Well, yeah, but the other thing is I am interested now because Android has now got this Android Wear.
Yeah.
So rather than having to rely on different operating systems on the watch, you've got Android on the watch, Android on the phone.
Yeah.
And it frees up the manufacturers so they're not having to develop their own software anymore. They can concentrate on what they're good at, the hardware. And already I've seen that Sony Smartwatch 3 is going to be using Android Wear.
Is it?
Yes.
Now that's a turnaround.
Well, that's something that was announced yesterday.
That must be a turnaround then, because they did announce about a month or two ago that the third version would be running their own bespoke software. So they've obviously then taken another look at Android Wear and thought, actually, this kind of is good or something.
Yep.
And so it's easy. I did see the, what, was it an Asus one you posted on Facebook earlier?
Yep, the Asus one, which I haven't got listed in my notes as to what it is.
That looks really nice. Well, I'll put a link in the show notes.
And also the LG G.
I haven't seen that.
The LG G, which is another round-faced watch, and it's got the sort of bezel on it like a sports watch. So it's making it look more like a watch rather than a mobile phone strapped to your wrist.
Yeah. Have you seen what sort of price point these things are looking at?
Again, I think sort of the low end is going to be around 160, 180 quid.
Because, I mean, that's roughly what I paid for my watch.
Yeah.
And I'm tempted to ditch it and go for an Android Wear one. But what I need to figure out, and it looks like you may have solved that or confirmed that for me, I think it might be my phone that's the issue rather than the watch. So
Now,
if I got myself a newer phone, that watch would be perfectly serviceable.
At the moment, you can buy the Moto G, which is a clean Android. It's not Motorola specific. It is a clean Android phone for less than you'd be paying for the watch.
Really?
Yes.
And that's no contract, nothing. That's just the phone.
Just the phone.
Ooh.
And that's only one of the options. I mean, I think somebody else was looking into phones the other day. I can't remember who it was now, but they were saying there was Sony, one of the Sony low-end phones, again around 160, 170 quid.
Ah.
So, and what's low-end phone nowadays is something that's very comparable with the Nexus 4 that I've got that's from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And that's certainly a very capable phone.
May have to investigate this further.
You're listening to Dumbed Down Life.
So I'm just going to pick up on a couple of things that we spoke about in the last couple of shows. We've covered quite heavily in detail Rosetta.
Yes.
And when we last spoke, they were preparing to make their last sort of burn to get into a closer orbit, weren't they?
That's right. Yep.
Right. That's been successful.
Good.
And Rosetta is now orbiting around the comet at about 50 kilometers distance from it. But this week they're planning on doing some further burns to bring it in a bit closer, down to around 30 kilometers.
Mm-hmm.
And then another one to bring it in to about 20 kilometers. And then to 10. Now, these are not from the surface. These are from the center of the comet, and the comet's 4 kilometers wide.
Because the comet is of a irregular shape, you couldn't say a distance from the surface
because the surface changes as it's orbiting. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Everything's gone according to plan. And then the next step is to get it closer. And then also this week, the next thing is to wake up, I think it's pronounced Philae, which is the smaller robot that they've got onto the probe. That's the thing that's actually going to be doing the landing onto the comet.
Right.
And they're going to wake that up. And try to take a photo of the comet using its camera just to make sure everything works. The camera on Philae is not quite as good as the one on Rosetta.
Oh, sorry,
my phone. Yeah, it's not as good as the one on Rosetta, but they're just kind of doing it to test to make sure everything works. So then once they're down to the 10-kilometer point, they'll really start to pinpoint where they're going to land it. They've got a short list of a long list of 5, and they need to narrow that down to 2, a primary and a backup. So that's the sort of next step.
Now, when we last spoke, and I realise I'm putting you in on the spot here, so you may not have an answer to this. They were surprised that the gravity wasn't what they expected. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And apparently, I read not long after that it may well have a negative gravity.
Negative gravity? No.
Yes.
Wow.
Which would make landing
really difficult,
rather tricky.
What I have read,
it not being big enough to have its own gravity to overcome I want to say centrifugal, but I think that's the wrong use of the word. But you know what I mean by
yeah.
The fact that it's spinning,
the spin,
to throw the stuff off the surface. So I believe I heard that it's got a negative gravity.
Wow.
But again, because I'm sure you're going to update this again in future shows,
yeah,
you can come back to me and say,
actually,
how wrong I was.
Well, what I have read, and I can't give you the figures because I don't have them in front of me, but they're quite surprised on how light it is. And they now suspect that it's quite porous and possibly even has huge, great holes running through the middle of it.
Yeah.
Because something of the size and the suspected makeup should be quite a bit heavier. Apparently, it's 4 kilometers wide. You drop it in the ocean, it will float.
Oh, nice.
Its density is so low which probably explains what you were saying about the negative gravity. And my last spacey thing is, I can't remember whether it was last show or the show before, but you asked me a question. I think it was the one before. We were talking about Mars and the fact that the new probe is going there in a couple of years to try and make oxygen.
Yep.
You asked me, how do they make oxygen on the International Space Station?
Oh.
And
this is a novel idea. This
what finding out information and actually coming
instead
back.
of just leaving open-ended questions.
Yeah.
We go and investigate and then come back again later. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it kind of played on my mind. So I thought, well, I have Google. I'll find out. So how they do it is electrolysis. They have water.
They remove all their hair.
Yeah, they have water. They use the electrolysis process and they split it into oxygen and hydrogen. The oxygen is pumped into a storage facility known as the oxygen generation system, and the hydrogen is vented out into space. They provide the energy for doing this by the solar panels that are running all the way. You know, the big solar panels you've seen on the ISS?
Yep.
That thing helps power the electrolysis. And it provides between 2.3 and 9 kilograms of oxygen, which is 5 to 20 pounds for those of us that work in old money. And it's the same system that was used on the Russian Mir space station.
So it's more efficient to get water onto the space station than it is to get air. That's interesting.
Yeah, I wondered that because they've obviously got to take water up there to do the process, haven't they?
Yeah, but then water's going to be used for other things as
well. Yeah. They have backup systems where the unmanned cargo ships, I mean, we talked about the fact that maybe they just fly air up there, and that's true. Pressurized oxygen storage tanks are taken up by the unmanned cargo ships as a backup, and then there's a third backup where they've got solid oxygen. Let's read this because I can't remember this. They generate oxygen chemically by igniting solid fuel oxygen generation canisters. I love the names they come up with. It's comprised of lithium perchlorate.
Oh, goodness.
And each canister provides enough oxygen to support one crew member for 1 day. So should both the electrolysis break down and they run out of the stored oxygen, they have these things that they can burn and still breathe while they get a rescue mission up there. So
your question for the next recording.
Okay.
What's the average air consumption of an astronaut?
On the space station?
Yeah.
Okay. Challenge accepted.
Now, since the last show, one of the things that we did was I did a round Britain tour, picked up Michael, picked up yourself, and then we went up to Donington.
Good God, I'd forgotten not forgotten we'd done that, but I've forgotten we haven't recorded since we've done that. Jeez.
And we went to the one of the testing days for the new upcoming Formula E. I wanted to snip this in at the end because if we don't record next week, then we might miss the start of the season. Formula E will be starting in Beijing, and it will be showing on ITV4 at 8 o'clock in the morning. So if you have a Virgin box, or if you've got a device that will pick up ITV4, you might want to just program that into a recording and give it a watch, because it is quite an unusual thing, isn't it?
It is. What day? You haven't actually said the day.
Did I not say?
No.
Sorry, 13th of September.
13th, right, great. Which is next weekend, basically.
Exactly,
yeah.
So I'm going to set it for recording and watching it.
Definitely.
There's a lot of drivers in there from Formula One days, and so a lot of names that you will recognise.
That's the thing that surprised me the most. How many names are involved in it?
Yeah.
I mean, Branson's there with the Virgin team, isn't he?
Yep.
Alan Prost has got his own team.
Yep, and that well-known racing driver Leonardo DiCaprio has got his own team.
Team, yeah. That's Venturi, is that one? I think.
I believe that's his. Yeah.
There's Andretti from IndyCar over in America.
Yep. Some of these are
Jarno Trulli.
Some of these are not the. Because there's a Senna as well, isn't there?
Yeah, Bruno Senna's
Senna,
driver.
and Bruno Senna has been Formula One, but you say Senna and you don't think Bruno.
Bruno, no. But Jarno Trulli's there, Nick Heidfeld's there, Bruno Senna's there, Jamie Alguersuari's there, Sebastian Buemi's there. I mean, it seems to be the place where failed Formula One drivers are now racing. Or ex who are too old to do it, like Jarno Trulli. I wouldn't call him a failed driver, but I mean, Senna and Alguersuari there, and he managed 1 or 2 seasons between them, didn't they?
Certainly part of the appeal for this first season, and this will change if this goes on to a second season, part of the appeal of this first season is that they are all driving exactly the same car. And it's got exactly the same drivetrain. It's got and so you know that this is going to be purely a test of the driving skills
and how they've set that car up. Because each team or each driver will have different wing settings. Then they don't have as many wing vanes or what have you as Formula One, but they obviously do have some. So some will like a bit less wing, a bit more wing. There'll be suspension setups and stuff. So although the cars are identical, they'll be set up differently to suit whoever's driving that car or those cars, because the interesting thing, I found this quite funny in a way. We're used to having pit stops in Formula One where they fly in, car gets lifted up, 4 tyres come off, 4 new tyres go on, car gets dropped, and off they go, all in about 3 to 4 seconds.
Yep.
In this series, because the battery technology isn't good enough for them to last a full hour at 150 miles an hour,
Yep.
they have a pit stop where they change the car.
Yep, because safety regulations at the moment say that they haven't got a robust method for changing
The battery. Yeah. Or also the battery isn't going to last long enough. So.
And the batteries had to be made part of the superstructure of the car.
Yes.
So, you are effectively simply changing the battery, which has got a wheel on each corner.
Yeah. The other interesting thing is the tyres. There's no slicks. There's no wet weather tyres. They have I suppose what you'd call in the Formula One sort of area, it's an intermediate.
Yeah.
So there's going to be lots of slipping and sliding.
Well, what we saw, because when we went for the training days, we were given sort of brochures and information all over the place. What they're trying to do is not promote a faster racing car. They're not trying to look for wing configurations and body shapes, and we've seen this happen in Formula One, where the little hole that was put in, that you could put your foot over the hole and somehow
the blown diffuser thing.
And they're not looking for those sort of things, so that the rulings in this formula are likely to be very tight on what you can do with regards to body shape and so forth. They don't want you messing around with that. What they want is for a team to come up with, well, this is a more efficient motor, this is a longer lasting battery.
Well, we can get more power out of it, so we can go 2 miles an hour faster than you can, or what have you.
The first team that is able to go for a full race without a battery charge or battery change is going to win.
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to take 15-20 seconds to change a car? It must do.
Well, they're limited to a minute. They've got to get from one car into the other within a minute, because otherwise I don't know whether they're penalised or how that's going to work. But yeah, they've got a minute to get from one car into the other. Right. And it sounds like a long time. But to get the car, once the car's crossed the line into the garage, that's when your minute starts. So you've got a minute to stop the car, to remove the steering wheel, to get out, to get in.
Well, won't just be the steering wheel that they remove, because I'm assuming they'll have the similar safety features to Formula One. So they'll have the neck brace, they'll have the canopy thing. You've seen the Formula One guys when they get out to Parc Fermé. There's this huge sort of U-shaped thing that they have to take off before they can get out. Well, if they've got the same as that could easily take a minute. Yeah, that would be interesting.
So we're going to start getting some fairly common themes to the show. We're going to be having the tech talks. We're going to be having the Formula E talks, and we're getting a show together, mate.
I think so. And we haven't even started on Star Wars yet.
Oh, well. If you're looking forward to the next show as much as we are, I hope you'll hear us again soon. Ta-ra!
Ta-ra!
You can call the Dumbed Down Life crew on 07092 274 759.
You can follow us on Twitter. Our account name is dumbdownlife.
The email address is ddl.podshow@gmail.com. The website address is www.dumbdownlife.com.
And actually, it was me looking at phones, and I did tell you it was a Moto G, but let's not admit that on air, shall we? Because I'd forgotten all about it, but I was looking at it on the Littlewoods website. As soon as you said somebody else was looking, I was like, oh, bollocks, that was me.